There's a photograph you keep returning to, not of them, of you. The way you looked that summer, leaning against something, laughing at something they said. You look lit from inside, and you realize the ache you've been carrying isn't really about them at all. It's about her, the person in that photograph, the one you were when you believed that story. You tell yourself you miss them, and maybe you do, a little. But when you sit with it honestly, really sit with it, what you miss is more specific than that. You miss the version of yourself who woke up with something to look forward to, who texted back immediately, not from anxiety, but from wanting to, who had a reason to notice small things, the light on a Tuesday afternoon, the particular smell of a season. They were the occasion for that aliveness. And now that occasion is gone. The psychologist Dorothy Tenoff spent years in the 1970s interviewing people about romantic obsession, and what she found was striking. Most of what people experienced as love was actually directed at a mental construction, a character they had built from selected evidence projected onto a real person who was, inevitably, something quite different. She called the state limerence. The object of limerence, she wrote, is almost incidental. The real drama is internal. Think about when you first fell. What you were actually falling into was a story with a very compelling protagonist. Yourself. You were interesting in it. You were chosen. You were the kind of person who could be loved like that. The relationship became a mirror that showed you a reflection you wanted to keep seeing. Someone tender enough to feel this much, brave enough to risk it, alive enough to want something so badly it hurt. And so when it ended, or changed, or slowly went quiet, what you lost wasn't just them. You lost the narrative frame that made you legible to yourself. Suddenly, there was no story, no forward momentum, no one to be the person you were becoming inside that love. That self, the one you were so briefly and so vividly, became inaccessible. And that is a particular kind of grief that almost nobody names. Not the loss of another person, but the loss of a self. It explains something that can feel shameful. Why you grieve someone who wasn't even that good to you. Why the ending of something clearly wrong still leaves you inconsolable. Because the question was never whether they deserved your grief. The question was always, who were you inside that story? And where does she go now that the story is over? You weren't protecting them. You were protecting the self that lived inside loving them. The philosopher Alain Badiou wrote that love is not a feeling, it is a work, a construction of a world. And when that world collapses, you don't just lose the person. You lose the entire cosmology, the inside jokes that were a private language, the plans that organized the future into something worth inhabiting, the ordinary Thursdays that had weight because they were shared. You become, in some wordless way, a little harder to locate. There's a strange thing that happens after. You find yourself not thinking about who they actually are now, whether they're happy, what they're doing, but about who you were then. You replay scenes not to understand them, but to get back inside that feeling of being that person. You're not trying to solve a mystery about them. You're trying to recover something about yourself. The story is a door you keep opening, hoping to find her still standing there. And maybe the harder, quieter truth is this: that self wasn't a fiction. She was real. The capacity for that tenderness, that aliveness, that willingness to be undone by something, that was genuinely you. It wasn't conjured by them, it was revealed, which means it still exists somewhere. It didn't leave with them, it only went quiet. So the grief, when you understand it this way, begins to change shape. It's not a wound that proves how much you love them. It's something more like a record of your own capacity, proof that you are someone who can feel that much, want that much, Live that openly inside a thing. That doesn't disappear when a story ends. You carry it forward, not toward them, toward the next version of yourself that hasn't been written yet.